Hello, hi everybody. Welcome to NJ Thrive's Small Business Webinars. Today is Tuesday, March 12th. You are attending one of our weekly webinars created to help New Jersey small business owners start, grow, and thrive. March 12th, that means we're in the month of March. We're celebrating Women's History Month. If you are a woman-owned business joining us today, um, happy Women's History Month. Today's webinar is not directly related to Women's History Month, but our previous webinar was, so if you're interested, please go and join, and we will have upcoming webinars, so stay tuned. My name is Uzma Sheikh. I'm a consultant here at NJSBDC. And NJSBDC is New Jersey Small Business Development Centers. We're a network and a statewide program powered by the SBA, which stands for Small Business Administration, and partners to help small businesses in New Jersey with three main things. And those things are no-cost small business consulting, training and events, starting at $0, and exclusive small business resources. On the screen, you see a map of New Jersey. And in all the counties, or in some of the counties, there is a little SBDC logo, and that's where our regional centers are located. So if you ever want to make an appointment, go say hi in person, or if you want to attend an in-person event, all you have to do is go to njsbdc.com and find out where the location of our regional center is and go say hi. If you can hear and see me okay, put a 1 in the chat. Also feel free to network in the chat by sharing your name, your business, or what you plan to do, your idea of a business. Any social media information that you want to share about yourself or your business, feel free to do so. All right, I see responses coming in. Awesome. If anytime, whether it's me or a speaker today, there is a unstable internet connection or you can't see us, hear us, let us know in the chat and we'll do our best to help you. All right, so today's webinar is part of our How to Register Your Business series. It's a multi-session webinar series created to help New Jersey's aspiring entrepreneurs start, grow, and thrive. So welcome. On the agenda, we have a couple of headlines that I'd like to share with you. Those things are just things that are happening in the small business community, things that we want you to stay aware of, upcoming events, or any pressing information in the news related to the small business community. Then we have our presentation from our speaker and the Q&A session after. These headlines I will share in the chat, the links to. I will put them in the chat as soon as I am done sharing my screen. So this is the first news article from ROINJ.com. ROI Influencers, Women in Business 2024. Kelly Brosna, one of them. And this is special for us because Kelly Brosna is our CEO and state director. So congratulations to Kelly. And in her little blurb, they say she was able to change the way the SBDC made an impact on the small business through the state. Her leadership and her experience make a difference for small businesses across the state of New Jersey. So if you see Kelly in the upcoming weeks, hint, we do have a webinar coming up. Please tell her congratulations, and we hope to celebrate with her soon. All right, NJEDA second headline. NJEDA stands for New Jersey Economic Development Authority. This is a great resource for everyone to stay in touch with. One of the press releases released just yesterday, NJEDA to host information sessions for new emerging developers grant. Program will provide grants up to $250,000 to assist small-scale developers in gaining access to capital. They will host in-person or virtual information sessions to introduce this grant pilot program. What it is, it describes it here, aims to address various difficulties that continue to be a constant burden to emerging developers, which limit opportunities to expand their portfolios. Who it is, the program will support developers that have completed at least 2, but no more than 5 commercial and or mixed use properties of similar scope. When and where the virtual event information is right here, 6 to 7 on March 19th. You can register here, and in person, there are a couple of dates. For more information, you can visit this link, which will be shared in the chat. Second is a press release also from NJEDA published on March 7th. Murphy administration announces new GenMap location, expanding state's presence in biotech field. GenMab is expected to create 300 new jobs in Middlesex County with support of NJED's Emerge program, approved for a total of up to 8.4 million in tax credits over 7 years to support the biotech company's plans to open a second location in Plainsboro. All right, pretty cool. And it's a long article, it's a long press release. Feel free to read more on your own. I will share the link. All right, some housekeeping rules that we want you to engage with and keep in mind throughout the webinar. If you have any questions, just as you've shared in the chat so far, there is a box that says Q&A. So if you have any questions that you'd like the speaker to address during our Q&A session, please put them in the Q&A box. And if you would like to receive the slides from our speaker, and if you'd like to tell us how awesome we are or how terrible we are, or any topics that you'd like to hear from us, then complete our brief Google Forms survey and you'll get the link. And this webinar is being recorded, so if you'd like to view it at a later time, then feel free to watch it on our YouTube channel or our video library. The website will be shared. All right, so for today, we have a different face than our usual Tuesday webinars. Brian Silvestre, one of our capital team consultants, for session 17, Startup Essentials and NJSBDC's Guide to Registering Your Business. Brian, thank you and welcome. I'll stop sharing my screen and you can start sharing.
All right, guys. Hola, guys. I hope everybody is in the mood to make some money because that's what we're going to do. We're going to start the process on how do I register my company to start my business. All right, give me 1 second. Let me share my screen. Let's see. And, all right. So just like Uzma said, if everybody could let me know if you guys could see this by putting a 1 in the chat. Let's see. Let's just get some stuff. Okay, perfect. Let's take a look. Oh, perfect. Awesome, guys. All right. As you guys were just told, my name is Ryan. I'm one of the capital team consultants. So my specialty is typically on the finance side, on getting capital injection, I guess, into your small business idea or your small business that you've already launched. And but today I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a walkthrough on how to register your company. We're going to mostly be focusing on the LLC, just because it's the most common, or in most cases, the one size fits all. But I would like to start with a disclaimer that there are different legal entities, which we'll touch on a little bit here. But to decide which one is the right one for you, please always advise or consult with an advisor, a legal advisor. So you're either your tax professional or your attorney, to see which one is the right fit for you. Because depending on the needs of your business, where you're going to be selling the product, how you're going to be engaging with the audience and the public, determines which one is the best fit for you. Okay. So this is a little bit of an agenda of what we're going to be speaking about today, the different business structures that exist. And I'll go into it more, but generally speaking, you have businesses that or business structures that will protect you a lot for the legal liability or the tax liability. There are a few little benefits that we'll go into, but that's pretty much the where the spectrum or how the spectrum is defined. How much tax liability and how much legal liability exists with each one. How to register the LLC, understanding the state regulations for New Jersey, and understanding how to register your business for taxes. We'll jump into funding. If anybody has any questions on that, we can explore that at a deeper level towards the end. And then additional resources that we have and what to do next. All right. Oh, and before I forget, there's always going to be a Q&A at the end, but if there's anything that's really important in the meantime, please feel free to leave the question here. I will be looking at it every once in a while. If there's something that can wait till the end, I'll answer at the end. But if it's important to what we're looking at now, or if it's something that I skipped over, or should spend a little bit more time on, I'll adjust it now. All right, so the first or most, I guess the path of least resistance as far as registering a company is the sole proprietorship. So sole proprietorship is pretty much an extension of you as an individual. So there's very little separation between you and the business, which in some cases makes it very easy to transition. If I'm learning on how to paint walls as an example, and I just want to have a little bit of a side income. This might be something that I can register, as a possibility, just because, I go to the county office, and it's not really a real business for me. It's just a little side project. I'm doing it to help out, friend or family. That might be a reason to do it as a sole proprietorship. You had a couple bullet points, but your social security number is essentially your tax ID. Again, there's very little separation between you and the business. The downside is that because there's no separation between you and the business, there's very little protection in case of lawsuits. So this is only something, in my personal opinion, as side income when you're dealing with friends and family. But even then, there's still always a possibility. So take it with a grain of salt. If I should be using the sole proprietorship, again, there are some advantages, but really speak to your tax attorney and to an attorney or just a CPA on which one is right for you. So the LLC is where we're going to spend most of our time on today, but the LLC is essentially what's called a pass-through entity. And what that means is that all the income and activity passes through your personal taxes. It's just another schedule on your personal taxes. Now, what the LLC does, it kind of does a little bit of a hybrid between the fluidness, I guess, and the ease of the sole proprietorship, but gives you some of the benefits of the corporation, which is on the other side of the spectrum. So on one side, you have sole props. On the other side, you have corporations. And you have different types of corporations. The two most common ones are the B, I'm not the B. There is a B corporation, but that's something else. Is the C and the S, which we'll go into in a moment. But the limited liability company does give you a little bit of a force field or a shield against some tax liability and some legal liability. The misconception is that people, I hear it pretty often, is that I have an impenetrable force field and no such thing as an absolute bulletproof vest that will stop every bullet. So there are some limits to the liability, which is why it's limited liability. So it's always good to understand what those limits are, and if those limits are enough for what your business is. Generally speaking, one of the best benefits is that it will not touch other entities that you have. So you can have multiple entities. If, for example, if you own various pieces of real estate and you have, each house or each building as a separate LLC, the liability is on that building, possibly if they can get through your insurance company and then get through you, then possibly some limitations on the liability that you can personally be liable for, but it will not go after the other LLC. That's one of the benefits of the LLC structure. Corporations, depending again on what you're trying to do, very important to understand your business model or your economic model, I should say, which is how you generate income. A corporation might be something that you should look at. An LLC is a state entity, which means that you're going to be doing business in the state of New Jersey and not business outside. Now you can you can ship a product. There's a big difference, and I'll explain the difference in a moment. You can ship your product anywhere in the world that you want, but you can't sell your product outside of New Jersey. And the technicality, I guess, is where the transaction takes place. So the definition is if a sale transacts outside of the state lines, you have to ask for permission from that other states, if we're talking about the US, to do business in that state. And if we're planning to travel to New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, which are our neighboring states, to do business physically there, maybe even if it's a trade show, unless you have a trade show permit, we might look at one of the other entities like a corporation, or follow what's called a foreign entity form, which means I'm going to ask permission from the other state to do business there. So that's a little caveat that we should be aware of. So the differences between the C Corp and the S Corporate, which are, like I mentioned before, the two most common types of corporations. In my opinion, the way I like to summarize these is that a C Corp is a completely separate entity and as a result of being a completely separate entity, unlike the S Corp, which is a pass-through, very similar to the LLC. On the C Corp, you have the potential for double taxation, which some people have as the biggest red flag as to why I don't want to go into the C Corp. I will caveat that statement with there are ways and tax strategies to minimize the taxes, and essentially even almost eliminate all taxes. And there's plenty of examples of large, C corps that have almost reduced or eliminated, to very little their tax liability, but it's through tax strategies. Always talk to an accountant before the end of the year to talk about tax planning for the following year. If we put time into tax planning, whether it's an LLC or C Corp or an S Corp, we minimize our tax liability. There's certain decisions that we can do throughout the year that will get us to a more advantageous place at the end of the year. So again, the biggest difference between the two, C Corp is a completely separate entity that has its own tax filings and its own income and its own expenses, where the S Corp and LLC is a pass-through. Another advantage of a C Corp is that you're allowed to do business most places around the world. Again, some caveats. The easiest one is if you guys are looking to raise capital through the sale of stock, some investors or seeking private investors, you can do it technically through both, but there's more regulation on the S Corp than there is on the C Corp. So that might be something to keep in mind. My personal favorite feature, I guess, of a C Corp is that the existence of the entity will continue regardless of who's at the helm of the operation. So if it's easier for a succession plan. So for example, when Steve Jobs passed away, Apple still was around. It's a C Corp, But if I have my own LLC, Ryan's Pizzeria, and I pass away, there's the LLC is an extension of my own personal business. So depending on what the succession plan is for your business, if there is one that you have that you want to give thought to, that might be something to think about. We can't have one with an LLC. We just have to write additional rules. Let me take a look at the questions real quickly, just to make sure that we're okay. With the LLC doing business outside New Jersey. Yep, you're referring to selling product. I've consulted. Yes. So if you are physically, so the question here is if you're doing business outside of New Jersey, you are referring to selling a product. So you can consult, like I said, I can deliver the services anywhere in the world. I can deliver, we can have a Zoom meeting. I can deliver services anywhere, whether it's advice or whether it's a product that I'm just shipping somewhere. However, if I went to that other state, and this is where the caveats are, and I'm not an attorney, so, and even if I was, I'm not the attorney for anyone here watching. If I were to have collected payments for that online consulting, because I traveled to Nevada, I met with somebody, I accepted a check over there, but I came back to New Jersey and I'm now doing online consulting that way for the next year because they gave me a retainer, that's a violation. So depending on how that transaction takes place, these are the technicalities that we have to be aware of in order for us not to get in trouble with Uncle Sam at the end of the year. So I hope that answers the question. So now going back to LLC. So the formation of the LLC, there are 3 basic steps to registering your LLC. The first step is registering with the state of New Jersey, which we'll go into in I think in the next slide. The second one is going to go get your tax ID from the IRS, and the third one is linking the two, which is registering for state taxes. However, before starting the process, I always advise people to spend more time in planning. And planning could be, getting to know what the rules and regulations are. Do I need any special permits? Do I need any special approvals? What's taxable, what's not taxable? So I can look all this up online first before actually making the, starting the process, and then finding out that I am not prepared because some of the questions that are going to be asked might be questions that I didn't really think of or don't have an answer, and I'm not prepared to answer yet. So those are the things that that we need to know. I see here it also says know the terminology. There are a few words that are unique to the LLC registration or company registrations as a whole that don't exist in normal everyday English. For example, members and owner. We see that quite often. Registered agent is another one. So they'll ask us, who is a registered agent, and that simply means who is representing the company publicly, who can accept the mail on behalf of the company. Usually, the owners of the company can appoint themselves as their own registered agents. I do on my side. But you can always appoint an attorney or a registered agent company to collect, any official documents and correspondences. In the event that you do travel a lot and you might miss mail or you just want added protection. So that's something to understand. And then the business plan, obviously, we spend time, doing the business plan. So let's see. Yep. So the first bullet point here is what I was mentioning before, which is when you are registering the business for taxes. That's step number 3. That's a step that I've seen for people that have told me that I've met for the first time that have a business. I started my business last year or 20 years ago. Usually not when it happens, many years ago, but I usually see people forgetting to do that last step. They have what's called their CID or corporate ID. That's the number you're going to get when you go to New Jersey's website and you register your LLC. The second one is your tax ID, which is when you go to irs.gov and get your tax ID. But the state has to know that those two know each other. That's that registration for state taxes, and that's that first bullet point that they're addressing here. This is the actual website, that you would go to get your business started. That's step 1 on the 3-step process that I just described. This one, depending on how familiar you are with the questions and how prepared you are, could take you 30 minutes. It's not a very long process. Questions are pretty simple. It gets a little bit more in depth with the questions later on once you're linking the two or even at the IRS website. And then this, for anybody who is not aware of the beneficial ownership information reports, it's technically started a couple of years ago, but it's being mandated now. And it's just a fancy way to say who are the owners of the company. And the idea is so that we don't hide behind a corporate veil. There's just for transparency, it's for for security, both on a financial side and even on the national security side. But we have to fill this out every year that says who are the owners of the company, and as your LLC that you registered, you will put down who owns the company, but things change, and as things change at the end of the year when you file your taxes, or if you want to do it in the middle, depending on, and up to you, there is a form that you register and say, I now have an additional new partner, or my old partner is no longer with me, or I am selling new products. And that's something that I forgot to mention in the last slide as a way to prepare for registering my taxes. I mean my LLC, which could be, what are my codes? So you have an NAICS code, and an SIC code, or a New Jersey business code. So it takes that perhaps will take the longest to look up if you're not familiar with what the right codes are. Obviously, working with an SBDC consultant, will expedite that process and we'll get help you get those codes. But that's something that we can add right away. All right, so let's see. The business name says, make sure you choose a good name. Now, this is also very, very important in my opinion, especially for the question that was asked earlier about consulting outside of the states, is that when you register your LLC, your name is protected at a state level. It is not protected at a national level. So if branding outside of New Jersey is part of your strategy, consider either I would still do the first version, which is getting IP protection on your name with the United States Patent and Trade Office. That's uspto.gov. That way your name is protected at a national level. And a quick little caveat, that name is protected within an industry. So it's not protected across all industries. For example, I'm sure we're all familiar with Dove soap and Dove ice cream. 2 separate products, 2 separate companies have nothing to do with each other, but they both have exclusive rights to their name within their industry. But if you register your LLC and leave it alone and then plan on doing business outside, whether it's virtually or in person selling the product, it's very important to make sure that we get that IP protection. All right, hold on. Let's take a look at these questions real quickly. Let's see. So do I have to register my business with every state? Let's say with every with the state every year. No, you register your business once a year. However, at the end of the year, you have what's called a certificate of good standing, and that says, hey, are you guys still in business? Is everything still okay? And it's pretty automatic. Your accountant will take care of it and says that that the business is still in good standing and that you're still operating. And I believe that's $75 a year. Let's see, please discuss separate LLCs versus DBAs. Ooh, that's a great question. Okay. So that one, I might save that one for the end just in case, because I'm getting into a couple of questions here. Let's see, LLCs and tax as an S corp. Yep, I'll go more into that and towards the end. And what application do we file for the USPTO? Yep, I'll go into that in a moment, but I'll discuss that a little bit more at the end. So for the USPTO, they have their own processes, and there are 4 categories of intellectual property, depending on the type of property that you are registering. You have trademarks, you have copyrights, you have patents, and you have I forgot the 4th one right now, trade secrets. So depending on which one we are registering, each has an associated cost. And depending on how many territories that I am getting my protection in will determine the cost. They have a great website with a lot of resources, so it's fantastic. So you guys can take a look at that. But let me continue with this one real quickly. So so you just give thought to the name, and even from a marketing side, give thought to the name. Sometimes certain names don't go well in certain regions where the dialect might be a bit different, or vocabulary might be a bit different. So just things to think about. The classic textbook example was, and I don't want to deviate too long, but Chevrolet came out with a car called the Nova years ago, Chevy Nova. In English-speaking countries, explosion. Spanish-speaking countries means doesn't go. So when the car was brought to another country where the market was mostly Hispanic, the name of the car was literally the car that doesn't go from Chevy. So it's just thoughts to have in the back of your mind. Let's see. Yep. So here, this is the fee to register your LLC. There is a $3.50 processing fee if you're using a credit card. I don't know if there's a way around it. It might be, if you do an e-check, it might not charge you the $3.50. And then the $75 as the annual fee for the certificate of good standing that I just mentioned a little while ago. Let's see. The NICS code, and New Jersey codes. The SIC codes that I mentioned before are slowly being phased out, but as far as I know, they're still being asked. So it might be a good use for you to take a look at it. You can just Google either one of these 2 terms and say, what is my business, and then describe your business. And then you can go through the descriptions and the definitions to see which one best fits what you guys do. You could also add you have a primary product, and then you have secondary products. If your secondary products are too distant from the first one, as far as industry, and as far as also production and cost, it might be a good question to ask your attorneys, your accountants, would it make sense to open up a separate LLC? But you can always add on, other codes and other services into your main LLC. Registered agent, that's what I was explaining before. Operating agreement is pretty much almost like a prenuptial, so to speak. So it says this is how we're going to operate, and it also has clauses for in case it should have clauses, I should say, in case things happen, in case I get in trouble with the law, or in case my credit score falls, or I become a liability, or I get divorced, married, things like that. It just says, what happens, but more importantly, it says who are the people and what are their responsibilities. Okay. Ownership, very, very important. Express the ownership, because that percentage of the profits will be going to each owner. So if you're 20% owner of the company, 20% of the profits will then be going to your personal taxes. Okay. What do I need to know? Yeah, this is something that you should look at and do a little bit of homework on. What's the difference between a 1065 and an 1120? I'll explain the basic difference, but the nuances of which one to choose, again, like I said, discuss it with an accountant or with your attorney, as SBDC advisor, but we can't give you legal advice. But essentially, a 1065 is when you have a partners in your company, in your LLC, specifically LLC, or 1120 is when you want to choose a to be taxed a little bit differently. Technically, it's an 1120S. And that way I can choose my LLC to be taxed as an S corp. And there are certain advantages to being taxed as an S corp. Primarily that you avoid the employment tax. That would be one of the major advantages of being having your LLC as an S corp. However, understanding what the regulations are, what the requirements are, so that I am in compliant with whatever the tax rules are, is something that we should do beforehand. But if it's just a single member LLC, just be by yourself, very simple format. One of the drop down options is single member LLC. So that's the one that we would choose. Let's see, know your goods and services. Yeah, there is a document, which I don't think is in the presentation, but we can Google it, which is New Jersey sales tax code. And it's a PDF document, it's very extensive, and it just shows all the different products. It does make sense for you to spend at least a few minutes looking at that, because sometimes there are products that are taxed if it's sold under one condition, where it's not taxed if it's sold under another condition. So it's very important to know, are my services or my products taxable? Again, sometimes the answer is yes, sometimes the answer is no. So it's just good to take a look at it. Let's see, know your business requirements. Yep, that's what I mentioned before. Sometimes there are special permissions, registrations, certificates or permits that you need in order to do this job. And in some cases, if we're looking at getting contracts, a private contract with a company, or especially a government contract, there are additional requirements that I have to be in compliance of. So it's also very good to make sure that I have those certificates and registrations. Workers' comp is just one of them. Now, opening a bank account is just one of the many good practices that you have to do, or that you should. Well, in this case, you have to do, but in other cases, you don't have to. But technically, a business bank account is great business practice to separate liability and to separate accountability, more important, of where the money is being spent. So we can clearly justify it as a business expense, so we can declare the bank a write-off. And especially if we're trying to get financing, we want to make sure that there's no commingling of funds, which is a huge red flag if we are going to register and operate our LLCs. We want to make sure that whatever is a business expense can clearly be defined as a business expense with the paper trail as evidence. So let's see. Oh, so we do have some of the this is the one that I was talking about that shows you the what is taxable and what is not taxable. And the different, oh, yeah, so this is actually, so this is hopefully something that you guys will get a copy of and save this slide. There's a lot of good resources here. So first one says, do I need any licenses or certificates for my business? And for the most part, a lot of us, if we're already jumping into thinking about registering our LLCs, we already have a good idea of what's needed and what's not needed. But just to double check, it's good to have some type of reference. And then the tax requirements, like I said, I've been here for about maybe 15 years with the SBDC, and one of the most common business practices or good business practices that I usually see not being done is tax planning. So understanding what are the personal tax requirements on my side, what are the business tax requirements on the business side, and what can I do in order to beat the tax collector to the punch. So the idea is we want to minimize taxes in a legal way, so that when we want to grow the business, and I am now talking to a banker for loans, I can buy my competitor, buy new assets or resources for my business, I can show cash flow that can justify that loan. It's on the loan financing side that I'm in. A common problem is people underreporting, for those that are brand new. And then as a result, it stunts their growth. They can't acquire the resources in order to continue to grow their company. That's something that that I was referring to. Let's see. So funding and cash management. So like I mentioned before, perhaps the first and most important step is that business plan, is that financial plan. What are my goals? I want to make $100,000 by the end of the year. How can I reverse engineer that? So I need $100,000 in profit. What are all my expenses is usually where I start at. And then I can say I need to have this type of volume or cash flow to get to that bottom line profit. But to start all this off, I have the startup cash need. So there's usually two sets of financials that you do, your pro forma or your projections, which says this is how the cash is going to be flowing through the company throughout the year. But to start all this process, this is my startup capital requirements. These are usually one-time purchases in the very beginning, like the pizza oven in my pizzeria example that I gave a little while ago. That's part of my startup cash needs. And then I can see, do I have the cash in my pocket or through my personal network to start this, or do I need to knock on the door of an investor, of a lender, of a grant issuer, to see if there are dollars that I can get for this. And if we are looking for outside dollars, usually what we're looking for is, and I say we, I mean, the financial backers, is that you have equity into this. Usually that equity minimum with some SBA loans is as low as 10%. In most cases, it usually starts off around 20%, which means 10 to 20% of the capital needs of the business need to be coming from you. The financier will put in the other 80, percent or 90%. And then the next one that I see here is the operating cash flow, which is what I was talking about before. And it's also very important to keep in the back of your mind to judge the effectiveness of your strategy is the ROI, or the return on your investments, because you have a break-even point that is different for each of these. You have one break-even point in the beginning that says, this is when I recuperated all the money that I used to start the company, the cost of, that oven, as an example, versus when I hit the break-even point on cash flow, which is a different number. This is when the income on a monthly basis exceeds the expenses. It's very important to know those two numbers so I can see what the ROI is on each of my assets, dollars, hours that I'm putting into the business. Personal budget constraints, this is just for to consider if I'm going to get into this, other sources of capital, which I already went into. Lender's viewpoint, very quickly. 5 key things to keep in mind if I am looking for outside capital. I like to call these the 5 C's of lending. So I'll go into them very quickly now, and then I'll spend a little bit more time, make sure that we're good on time. Yes. So that we can elaborate on these if you guys want to. But the 5 C's of lending are credit, and it's the credit of you. And I've hear this oftentimes. My business is going to borrow the money. Yes, technically, but you are the personal guarantor of that business. And until your business is of age or a corporation, we're looking at you to personally guarantee the loans. So it's a credit score of you. And most banks usually like to start around 650, sometimes a little higher, a little bit lower, before they start the conversation. So personal credit, compensation, which is the cash flow. If it's a brand new business, they'll look at your personal cash flow and the projected cash flow of the business. The third one is going to be the collateral. What kind of equity is here? Which could be earned equity that you guys or built-in equity that you already have into the business, or a down payment. The last 2 are very specific to business, which is what are the conditions? What's happening in the world around me, good and bad? If it's good, how am I taking advantage of it? If it's bad, what am I doing to prepare for it? Do I have a contingency plan in place? Do I have a pivot plan in place? Stuff like that. That's very, very important, especially now going out of the pandemic. And the last one is character. What's your professional resume look like, and why are you a good match for this? I love personally photography as a real life example. And if I want to open up a photography business tomorrow, I would be pretty much denied at all the banks, even though I have the other C's. The reason is because I don't have professional experience as a photographer. I only have amateur experience as a photographer. So it's very important to understand what my character, professional skills are saying about me and why I'm of value to the business. And then obviously, the last 2 bullet points is just on making sure we have some type of cash flow control. So there are different bookkeeping systems out there. Again, notebook, spreadsheets. QuickBooks is kind of like the gold standard, but you have a bunch of other ones out there. You have Peachtree, you have Wave, which is free. So there's Wave Apps is actually the website. It's one of those premium, so they'll sell you additional features if you need it, but the core service is free. And I'll go with, well, no, I'll save this for later if you guys want to, what the difference is between the income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow. But the idea is don't become an accountant, but become knowledgeable enough to understand what the accountant is showing you. That's the most important lesson here. Additional leads, obviously, always you're as good as the team around you. These are some team members that will help you grow your business. Just kind of rushing through so we spend a little bit more time with the questions. The next step, continue working with resources such as the SBDC. We have a team, very diverse team of professionals throughout the state. Each one has their own specialty. We all have the basic core understanding of how businesses work. So understanding of a basic question, most of us will be able to help you out. But if you have something very specific, we do have people that specialize just in procurement or just in lending, as an example, two out of many examples or many subjects that we can focus on. But we're always going to be a resource, a little secret in the back pocket for you guys. All right, so this is where I'm going to start with the questions. Let's see, is there an official Q&A slide? No, I don't think there is. Okay, so let me go back then. So this is actually how you start if you're not already an SBDC client. But this is how you start to request for registering your LLC specifically. And then down here, if you just want counseling in general. So the top one, again, the distinction is you want help registering your LLC, click the top, scan the top one. Bottom one is if you just want to chat with a consultant about business strategy. And welcome back, Uzma. Missed you a little bit, maybe a lot of it. Now we're going to go into some of these questions. Uzma, is there any question here that kind of popped out, or should I just take them as they were?
I recommend just going through them.
Right, awesome.
Would you want me to stay here and go through them with you, or you're okay answering them?
No, I'm okay. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Be a cheerleader. Let me know if I'm doing a bad job or good job.
Okay, what I will do is I will keep you on track with time. So it is 12:44 p.m. right now. We have
Fantastic.
about 11 questions. And what we can do is that at 12:55 p.m. mark, I will just remind you. And then we can take a couple more questions, and then we can run until about 1 p.m.
All right, awesome.
Okay,
So
perfect.
a quick question. Do you see the questions that I have up?
No, I don't. We only see the slides.
Okay, all right, perfect. All right, so I want to know in case if I should read the question verbatim. So
Yes,
I will.
please.
If you guys can't see, since you guys can't see them, I'll read them verbatim.
Yes.
All right.
So, and sorry, I would recommend before you start is that if there is any question that you feel like you can go back to the slides for, then I recommend that you do that. So for example, if someone's asking, oh, can you discuss this and that, and you have something like that on the slide, then please feel free to, just so it gives our audience an idea of what you're referring to, and if they can benefit from it from our slides.
Awesome.
Which they'll get.
All right, perfect. All right, so with that, we'll get started on the questions. So the first question I have here is what about SaaS? And similar to the question from before, and I'll read the question verbatim. It says, what about SaaS? And so if people buy subscriptions for an application or pay for a service in the United States across 50 states, do we need a business license for all states? Like I said before, if it's all being done virtually online, the answer is no. You are a New Jersey entity, you're just delivering your services outside of New Jersey. So you're just sending them off somewhere else. So you don't need to register. But if you do go into any of those states and you set up shop, or you go into one of those states and you collect payments, that's when we start to go into that gray line that might be a violation. So how you conduct your business. So there's a business model and you have your economic model. Your economic model is how you're turning your idea into cash. Your business model is the actions that I'm taking to execute my business. So if in this process you go to a hotel, to a conference room and set up a webinar, a seminar in person, and you're collecting payments, then the answer is yes. If you are doing everything remotely, the answer is no. But like I said, not an attorney. If I was not your attorney, So just cross-reference anything that I say with an attorney. And then the reason I'm saying that again is to just double check that the nuances of your business are being addressed, because I'm only able to give you feedback based on that one question. There might be additional questions that your attorney or your CPA is going to ask. But that's a good question. Hopefully that one is understood. Let's see. Next one. So I have to register my business with the state every year. Nope, that one I think I mentioned it before. That one you are just doing your certificate of good standing every year. That's the one that I mentioned before. That's the $75 a year. Let's see. Please discuss separate LLCs versus separate DBAs under one LLC. Okay, so each LLC is its own schedule of revenue, its own business operations. It's its own, like I said, it's a pass-through entity. It's a separate entity, but it's pass-through, which means it's really connected to me. It's just another schedule on my LLC. I mean, on my personal taxes. So if I have 5 LLCs, because I have 5 different businesses, I have a pizzeria, I have a mechanic shop, and I have a house that I rent out. Those are 3 different LLCs. Each have separate and unique liabilities. They each have separate types of insurances. They each have separate types of expenses. So that deserves their own schedule, their own LLC formation, which is its own tax form within my personal taxes. So it's just another paper within my personal taxes. That is because we're separating because of the tax liability and because of legal liability. A DBA is doing business as, or socially, it's kind of like a nickname. So you can have the same company that has just a nickname, like the example that I gave before. You have Chevrolet, which is the name of the company, but Chevy is its nickname. It's one of the DBAs. Or you have McDonald's and you have Mickey D's, Dunkin' Donuts and DD's. So each of these are all the DBAs. It's still the same company. It's just now a nickname. That's all it is. It's literally just, I'm calling you by a different name, but it's the same schedule, the same expenses. So there's a big distinction between the two. I cannot open up a DBA thinking I'm going to have a different business. That's a violation. That we can't do. Because that you'll get into too much, not only might you get into some tax problems, it's also going to be an accounting problem, because you want to know how efficient your model, business model is. And if I'm commingling expenses from 2 different companies, 2 different operations, 2 different products, I don't know which one really has the best ROI and the highest efficiency for me. All right. LLC taxes and S Corp. Will you go more into that? I can. Let me know if there's something specific that you would like to know about that. I'm not an accountant. I'm a finance guy. So I studied finance, not accounting. It's a little bit of a different discipline within the world of numbers. But the core difference, like I said before, the S Corp allows you to be a bit more creative with your with navigating the tax code. It gives you a bit more control with the tax code. The best way to find out which one is best for me is have a conversation with your accountant. The accountant is by far your best friend. It's the professional that I think, in my opinion, gets the least amount of love throughout the year. So, you should have a conversation with your accountant at least 4 times a year. Do not wait till the end of the year to have that conversation with the accountant. Say, hey, this is what I've been doing last quarter, and this is my goal. What can I do different? Have that conversation again every single quarter. Have a little, quick little combo. What application do we file with USPTO? Is the intent to use or something else to protect our name? Okay, yes. So the application depends on the type of intellectual property that you guys are registering. There are 4 types of intellectual property. Like I said, you have a trademark, you have which is like a logo as an example. You have copyright, which will be like literature that you write. And I'm oversimplifying this, by the way. So you have a trademark, you have copyright, you have patents, which will be a design on something, and you have a bunch of different patents. A utility patent is the most common one, but we can also have something like a plant patent, which is literally I made a new plant at the house. I combined 2 different seeds and grew one plant. So you have all types of different patents, and then you have trade secrets. Depending on the one that we are registering for protection on, will determine what the cost is and what the application is going to be. But USPTO does have a fantastic website with a lot of resources. And if you guys are lucky enough to drive out to DC, which is where they have their offices at, there are additional benefits that you have access to at no cost in person. They have a huge library with a ton of, it's a beautiful building. So I would, if you guys are in the DC area, definitely recommend you guys stop by there. So I think that's the question. Which application do we file? Yep. So that depends on which form of IP. Oh, last thing. I think that one of the easiest ways to increase valuation for our company, and the goal should always be increase profits and increase valuation. That should always be the goal. Is adding IP to your balance sheet, adding IP to your corporate value. For example, the easiest way to think about this is I would pay millions or even billions of dollars for just the Apple logo. I don't want the company, I don't want anything. I just want the right to own the Apple logo. That's worth a lot of money. Now I'm exaggerating the example just to help you understand. But if you guys build a local pizzeria that has local fame, as an example, you want to make sure that you leverage that, that brand. And in a quick little example, you guys can Google it, but Victoria's Secret and Burger King are two classic examples that had IP problems. Another Victoria's Secret, another Burger King existed. Technically, the original Burger King still exists, but it's not allowed to do business outside of that one town because they did not get to the USPTO website first. Again, oversimplifying the story, but that's a good thing to know. All right, let's see. Is there a charge at the USPTO? Yep, I did. I just said that. And your website is not your protection on your name. It's just a protection for the URL. So complete different things. Because it says here is there a charge for USPTO for registering and securing a website, an LLC? So it is not a your website has nothing to do with the USPTO office. It's just your address. You can come up with whatever address you want for your website, and that's protected, but your name is not protected. So that's completely separate. And it doesn't secure your LLC, it secures your IP that belongs to that LLC, but it's an asset of the LLC. Just like that pizza oven that I mentioned, you can sell the pizza oven, I can sell my IP. So if I register or I can license or lease, which is my personal favorite, I can come up with a certain process, trademark that process, copyright that process, I should say, and then I can either license that out to other people, or even sell it outright. So now, next question: what is the best way to choose an NAICS code? For example, code 54151, computer system design. Let me see. That's just the definition. I don't want to go into that now. Let's see, companies like Google, Tesla. Okay, yep. So the question at the end is companies like Google, Tesla have various NAICS code. And that's what I was mentioning before. You are allowed to have as many NAICS codes as you want. But they should all be related to the same vertical of your business. So it's a good idea if I am I don't know, a consulting company and I'm also now going to offer marketing services. Those are two different NAICS codes. Or if I am a supermarket and I'm now selling clothing like Walmart. That's a nice, easy vertical that I can integrate. But if I am selling something completely different, I'm now selling, computer repair services, and I also sell, groceries, food. Those are very distinct. And that's when I would advise, my recommendation, get a separate LLC. Don't add that NAICS code to your current LLC. So start with your primary. What is most of your business going to be generating, or where are most of those dollars going to be coming from as far as a service or product? And find the definition that best defines that as your primary. If there's other things you're going to do, then look at the other supporting ones and you can add them to your NAICS code. Or not add them to your NAICS code, but add them to your LLC. So I hope that answers the question. If I didn't, again, let me know. How many LLCs can one person register? As many as you want. I don't think there is a limit, and if there is a limit, it's nothing that that I've seen, that I've come across. I have clients that I work with that have 20 and 30 LLCs. I personally have maybe a little less than 10. The goal is not to have a ton of LLCs, but to have them consolidated in ways that makes sense and separated in ways that make sense. Let's see. What are the minimum insurance requirements by the state of New Jersey to do business? Oh, that one, that's an accounting question. So that one, I don't want to get myself in trouble. So It says here, what are the minimum insurance requirements by the state of New Jersey? Actually, that's not an accounting question. I apologize. So the insurance requirements, I don't know. Um, I don't know if there are minimum insurance requirements for a business that's doing software sales, which is what the question is. I can give you advice on what insurances to have in general. And I think a lot of us don't have adequate insurance or don't have the right insurance in place. So it's very good to have conversations with an insurance broker to make sure that we're properly covered. The second part of his question is, do we need any other insurance apart from general liability and workers' comp? Again, it depends on your business model. To be honest, if you are attending events in person, that might be additional requirements that you might need. If you're traveling, that might be additional insurances that you might need. I personally like, there's one that I have, it's an a la carte, insurance product, but it's economic disturbance is what I have, which says if I have a gas station and the road is blocked because of construction to get to my gas station, that's an outside economic disturbance. So as long as it can prove that what I would have been making or what I made before, then I can get compensation for that. But it depends on your business again. All right, so we got, let's see, are we doing on time? Okay, so I'll try to wrap it up in the next minute or two. I'll go quickly through these. Let's see, funding and cash management question. If we fund our own business, what is the minimum? What is the minimum fair market interest rate we have to charge for our business providing a loan? Oh, that's a great question. This is the. I'm tempted to give you a long answer, but I'll give you the very short answer. The second part to that question is, do we need to be aware of anything else apart from the loan agreement when providing a loan to our business? Okay, so the minimum fair market rate, the way rates are calculated, and I'll give it a short answer, is an index, or a base rate plus a margin. That margin goes up or down depending on the risk. So if you want to peg your bare minimum rate to, let's say, prime, which a lot of people do, but prime is pretty high now, the Wall Street prime, you can peg it to that and then say my business is more risky or less risky, so I have just a little bit of an increase because of the following conditions. My business is going into a brand new territory, emerging markets, and so it's high risk, so I'm going to pay myself a certain amount of money. The bottom line is I would not try to pay back myself too much on the interest because I don't want to stress the business. I want the business to stay alive and we want to take care of the business. A brand new business is like a brand new baby. We want to nurture it. We want to protect it. We want to be able to help it grow so that it can then feed itself and hopefully feed us a little bit later on. So I would probably do something close to prime, but making sure that in your financial forecast the cash flow can justify that. There are a bunch of other ones out there that people look at, but that's a longer conversation you should have with one of the consultants here. Good question. Do you help with nonprofits? Nope. Unfortunately, we can give some general advice, but we don't really have the ability to work with nonprofits. We're funded by the SBA. SBA in part is funded by taxes, and nonprofits don't really have taxes. However, if it's basic, there are a few caveats, so it's always best to reach out to your local center to see if the questions that you're looking for are connected to here. But the one advice I'll give you is if you look up, I can't remember the name of the company right now, but there's a company in lower Manhattan that is nationally online or physically if you go there, and the name will come to me in a moment. And it's a nonprofit library, very similar to us, with a lot of resources, and it's completely free if you go there in person. If you use it online, they have some minimum fees. But I'll think about it in a moment. It'll come to me. Let's see. Is it possible to have an LLC that has a nonprofit? Nonprofit is a designation that we give to an LLC, so it becomes the nonprofit and the LLC are one, unless the nonprofit is a subsidiary, but I don't think that's a good structure. Usually you have separate entities, like you have the Johnson & Johnson Corporation, but then you have the Johnson & Johnson Foundation, and the model could be that we have almost like a joint venture. So the two will feed and pollinate each other in different ways, but they're two separate entities. And I would also heavily advise you to look into what the rules are for running and owning a nonprofit. Nobody owns a nonprofit. It's a public entity. So you can start a nonprofit and essentially be fired from your own nonprofit. So it's very, it's very, it's not as easy. Let's see, on time, we're 2 minutes over. Uzma, so should we continue with the questions or should we ask a public poll opinions on
I
different?
was going to say that we do have a hard stop soon, so let's take the one question that I have marked as answered, for you to answer.
Okay.
And the rest, I will just ask everybody to be patient and request counseling with njsbdc.com/startup, the link that you see. Go ahead with the last question, right?
Okay, awesome. I see it. All right. Can you have two different businesses that have the same LLC name? No. And the reason you can't is when you first register your LLC, one of the very first questions is what is the name of your LLC? And it says, is that name available? So if you guys remember a couple slides ago, I said name availability. So the name availability says, is that name available in New Jersey? I might be able to go to New York, which is why I said it's a state entity. If I go to New York, I'm legally allowed to copy everything. Especially if you don't have IP protection, I can register the same exact name, copy the same model, and there's no protection for your exclusive, approach in New York or Pennsylvania or New Jersey or Connecticut or any other state. So that's the answer to that question. I'm
All
tempted to go
right.
on more and more and more.
I know. Once you keep
No.
going, you just keep going.
Yeah.
And our audience is very good at asking good questions. So
Yes.
props to everyone.
Yeah.
All
And while
right.
you do
So
that, let me look at my phone. Give me 1 second. I don't want to leave her hanging or the person that asked the question about the nonprofit. I'm gonna get you that answer right now.
someone recommended Winona said the foundation Sentet.
Yep, that's it. The foundation. Now I
Good
think the
eye.
foundation just got rebranded. So let me just double check. But the foundation is the one that I'm talking about. Let's see.
Nice.
Yep. So I appreciate the group effort, guys. Thank you for helping me. But the foundation I think is now called, it used to be called Candid or is now called, no, I can't find it, but I think it used to be called Candid or is now called Candid. So if you look up Candid or the foundation, their office, I know literally, right? I went there a bunch of times. It's on Water Street in Lower Manhattan. Fantastic resource. They give you a lot of classes on how to run nonprofits, nonprofit accounting, nonprofit marketing. And if you go there in person, almost everything is at no cost.
Awesome. And yeah, someone like Linda had in the Q&A had said candid. So group effort truly by everyone. Good job. All right. So Ryan, on your part, thank you very much for being a great speaker today, for being very gracious and answering everyone's questions. Our audience, thank you so much for joining. We always appreciate your support, whether you are a newcomer or you're a repeat supporter, whatever it is, we always appreciate your support. Thank you always for engaging with us. Now on your screen, you see your upcoming webinars, Thursday, March 14th. That is this Thursday, celebrating SBDC 2024, SBDC Day 2024, discovering small business resources with the SBA. On the screen, you see two wonderful ladies, Kelly Brosna and Erica Pearson. Kelly Brosna, as I had mentioned in the beginning, is our CEO and state director. Erica Pearson is one of our SBA lender relations specialists. If you would like to, well, not if you would like to, please join us to celebrate SBDC Day
Right.
on
Not an option.
Thursday. Yes, it's not even an option. Please
Not
join
an
us.
option. You guys got to go. It's official.
Yes, you
Yeah.
had to because it is for everyone's good.
Mhm.
Discover small business resources, find out everything that we have available. So see you there. Go to celebrating.sbdc.eventbrite.com or just scan that QR code. I hope to see you there. As always, I will be there. And if for everyone whose questions we couldn't get to, apologies, feel free to email us at the email that was shared in the chat, or just request counseling and we'll do our best to get to you. And this is an upcoming webinar as well, March 19th. This is in person in Madison, New Jersey, 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. It is application walkthrough workshop for the New Jersey Treasury Minority Certification for MWSBBE and LGBTQ+. There are requirements, so please bring your own laptop, have all the required documents saved as PDF, ready to be uploaded. You can find out more information on this link over here. And that is all from us. We are here to support you, and NJSBDC has helped 15,000 plus small businesses grow in the past 46 years that we've been in existence. So feel free to check out all the resources. I know I am biased, but NJSBDC.com is a great resource for you to check out. So take a minute or two out of your day and explore. All right, see you on Thursday. Again, you have no choice but to attend, honestly.
Yeah,
So
it's
attend
okay.
on Thursday, please. Celebrate, and all right, take care.
All
Bye.
right, thanks,
Thank you,
guys.
Ryan.
Adios, guys.